Bollocks! 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 Hello to all our chums out there. Welcome to Toyah and Robert's Agony Aunts, where we are to serve you up a pile of useless answers to a few of your many burning questions.
Yay! Greg Johnson, you ask, is it possible to create a record industry that caters to the artist, including allowing the artist to own their own music? Good question.
Yes, it's already in existence. All that you have to change is the values. So, for example, you introduce equity and distributive justice into the income supply going to artists.
Okay, artists need grounded, honest businessmen to build presence and longevity. Artists need to be artists. They don't need to be business people. And the only artist I can think of who is a business person as well is Madonna. And I think preferably an artist should have a trusted team around them who make sure they have enough money in the bank to pay their taxes. They have a good, honest accountant. We're only laughing because of the 80s and 90s.
And the accountant manager.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, this is why there's so many cliches about artists losing their money as soon as they have initial success. But as Robert said, it is possible. You know, you could have a cooperative or something. But most of the artists I know do not want to manage their own catalogue and do not want to manage their own shows. They want to be purely artists. And that means good, honest business people with experience coming on board. Martin Butler, who is it that shouts bollocks at the start of the programme?
Dunno.
Okay, it's Fripp's alter ego of freedom and spontaneity. It's some part of him only discovered in lockdown, and I look forward to the Guitar Circle and King Crimson adopting this practice, because once King Crimson has adopted this practice in a live show, all you're going to hear is dun 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 bollocks, dun 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 bollocks, 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 dun dun dun. Oh, bollocks! You'll have about 7 people shouting bollocks.
All right, let's put this into action. Let's try this. Unrehearsed.
Bollocks! The wonderful thing about King Crimson music is the majority of people, and I'm not being patronising, this is truthful, the majority of people do not recognise in the music when there's been a mistake. But a wife of 35 years knows. I know, and so do quite a few others. James McFate, do you rehearse your songs for Sunday lunch days before or just go for it?
Both.
Yeah, because we want to honour the songs and we want to honour the artist, and also we want to produce something that is insightful and fun. We start rehearsals on the Monday, and that is to honour the music. And you've got to remember, Robert is playing in a different tuning to the song was written in. And then when we get to perform, and we've had about 3 rehearsals before we perform it, the actual performance is spontaneous. I kind of come up with the visual ideas literally half an hour before we film it, and we do 1 or 3 takes, very rarely more than that, because the spontaneity in that performance is where the fun is. So yes, they're becoming more and more considered the bigger our audience is getting. And I've been informed in the last 28 days, we've had more people watch our films than EastEnders has had viewers, which is a big soap opera in the UK. Keith Taylor, how do you both feel about photographers at the gigs, Robert?
Oh, yeah. Fine when the performance is completed. Conventionally, you would have professional photographers in, and they'd be through the entire show. So then it moved to the first 3 songs. And then that meant the first 3 songs would be spoilt. because attention would be given to the photographers in the orchestra pit rather than your performance. So then it moved to, well, shall we do the encores? But then if there was a person in the band who was very sweaty, like the singer, maybe they didn't want to be photographed. So then finally it stopped. Although recognising people would like to take pictures, including Tony Levin, our master bass player and hero. Tony would like to take pictures too, so we've arrived at, when the music is completed, the performance is done as such, bring out your cameras, including me, and I have lots and lots of lovely pictures of people in the audiences from around the world.
And in defence of my husband on this, if he's playing something that is 18/7, you do not want a flashlight going off when you're having to count and be on that count. I totally sympathise with you. It just doesn't honour the music and it doesn't help you be a perfectionist. With me, I am not bothered. Flash photography is a problem because it blinds you. And there is this thing when the photographers, the professional photographers, traditionally come in for the first 4 numbers. And with me, they're usually in the pit, which is absolutely fine, and they add to the energy. But in the smaller shows where I do my acoustic kind of one-woman show, you get a professional photographer in, they're standing in front of a seated audience, they're blocking the view, they're behaving as if, they kind of behave with ego, they're not invisible. And the biggest problem I have with photographers is they need to tell me they're in. So I'm getting ready for a show and they come and knock on my dressing room door, hello, I'm in. I'm taking photos. And my reaction is, well, what the sodding hell do you think I'm going to do about it? Because I am there for the audience and to honour the music. So a lot of the times I get to a venue and I went, ooh, don't tell me if a photographer's in, just tell them to be invisible. I really, it will not make or change my life knowing that they're in, because all I'm focused on is the music and the audience who've travelled, paid a lot of money, who want a lovely night out and want good memories. So I'm quite tough about that because, you know, we get used to photographers thinking that we as artists are begging for them to take our photo. It's just part of the process. Let it happen.
I recognise, or rather I feel the intentionality.
Yeah.
And a lot of photographers, they're not there to give, they're there to take. And where someone knows that photography is being requested, please don't, and the act is intentional and non-consensual, violence is offered in a subtle fashion.
It's best for the artist not to know. The artist could know the morning of the show that there will be photographers in, but to knock on your dressing room door and say, hello, I'm in, I'm taking pictures of you, is an intrusion. That said, the photography is a blessing, and we've got a wonderful man called Robert Cooper who comes and documents all of my concerts and films them. I mean, he is a blessing. He has put me into the archives of music because he films my shows, and I just thank him every week for doing this. So it's a fine balance, but I think it's that intention of someone being there that distracts from the magic of the evening. Carly Emmon, you ask if you could give one piece of advice to your 20-year-old self, what would that be?
Go.
Learn, practice what you preach, keep learning, keep practicing, and utterly study the profession you're in as it evolves, and everything evolves all the time. It never arrives and stops. Acting evolves, music evolves, songwriting evolves, so stay on top of that wave.
Your future is not what you expect it to be. So embrace the change when it comes, and usually there's some promptings.
Also, your future may not be what you dream it to be. It can actually be something better. And the future has a plan for you. And trust that if things don't go the way you intended, they're going to go the way that's best for you. It's really interesting, but the future has a way of sorting things out. Adele A. Wright, do you have any funny stories or encounters with the Rolling Stones?
Yes. Let's go to the 5th of July, 1969, the Stones in the Park. Rolling Stones with a number of supporting bands, of whom King Crimson was one, our first very, very big show. And I was on the stage, the side of the stage, for about 2 minutes before the Hells Angels threw me off. When the Stones came down the side, and I looked over the side of the stage, and Bill Wyman was smiling and laughing. A Rolling Stone smiling. I'd never seen this. Then they came on stage and they threw several boxes of white cabbage butterflies. They released them. Well, the white cabbage butterflies at the bottom of the boxes, with all the others weighing on them, went plop on the side of the stage.
And wasn't this because Brian Jones passed away that week?
Well, yes, he did, and there was a huge cutout of Brian at the back of the stage, which during King Crimson's performance fell forward and landed on Greg Lake's head.
Oh boy.
Greg kept going. Greg had his training in the West Country, and the training it's prepared you for things like that to happen.
My Rolling Stone story is to do with Ronnie Wood. I was in Abbey Road making an album called Desire. Mike Hedges, the producer, knew Ronnie Wood, and we said, would he come and guest play on a track? And he did. We didn't expect him to. And the lovely thing is, Ronnie Wood arrived with a cigarette in his mouth at Abbey Road Studios in London with a tiny little amp in hand and his guitar. He sat in the mixing studio next to the mixing console. He just played away while talking to us, and he put the guitar down on a song called Dear Diary, and it was effortless. And he was utterly charming and just fabulous and a legend. And I'm so grateful that he was generous enough to do that. It was something, really something in my career. Jack B, referring to Brian Ferry's audition, can you say something about the audition Elton John gave for King Crimson?
All right, this has to do with the breakup of King Crimson at the end of '69, and then Greg Lake leaving at the beginning of 1970. There were a number of auditions, including Brian Ferry. However, Elton John did not audition, but was booked as a session singer to do all the tracks on In the Wake of Poseidon, the second Crimson album, for £250.
Wow.
And he was booked. And I was given a copy of his first album, Empty Sky, to listen to. And Elton was not the right singer for King Crimson. I might say that King Crimson was not the right band for Elton. Dear man, Bernie Taupin told me in 1974 that when he and Elton went to Paul Buckmaster, the superb arranger who did the second Elton album, his first very big album, they took a copy of In the Court of the Crimson King and said, this is the sound we want.
So if Elton John was available today to join King Crimson, would you say yes?
No. Because we're not the right band for Elton. Elton is a stunning songwriter, yes, great performer, but for me, Elton's real talent is as a songwriter.
Okay,
breathtaking.
let me put it another way. If Elton John was available to join and willing to join King Crimson on a tour, would you say no?
I would say, Elton, would you like to audition, please?
Do you not realise how exciting and extraordinary that would be? I'm sorry, this is how I am with my husband when he does something I disagree with.
I have to...
Get off your precious high horse, Princess Tippy Toes, and see how remarkable that would be.
It would be astonishing, dear, but I have too much respect for Elton to do it to him.
Elton, you're better off being Elton. You're having more fun, I can tell you that. So, Susan Brown, I love this question. You're both older, we've noticed. Wouldn't it be nice to be around each other and enjoy the time you both have left? How do you feel about that, baby? Instead of doing loads of tours.
Thank you for that, Susan. The answer to your considered question is...
Get me out of here!
Yes.
You would like more time together?
Yes!
Oh, bless you.
Did you... Excuse me, chums. Did you seriously expect me to say I'd rather go on tour and leave you behind?
Well, the thing is, I'm not a nag, but I do point things out. And if Robert does something that I think is a completely wasted opportunity or a waste of an opportunity, I mean, I tell him. I'm not scared to tell him.
My wife is not a nag, but she'll do until one turns up.
So if you needed a break from me, I would understand that.
Thank you, dear. I would rather be at home with you. This does not mean that I shall not be touring with Crimson. I look forward to touring with Crimson and going out there and playing music, which is always a privilege, but with the limited amount of time left to me, which Susan has kindly pointed out. Yeah, I'd like to be home with my wife, Susan. Thanks for that.
You've got 1 year and 5 days left. No, that's a joke.
Thank you, dear.
So would I rather be at home and around you and enjoying the time I have left?
No, my wife would rather be out working.
I have to work to stay sane.
My wife would rather be out working.
And also, I need to point out that partly as a woman, partly as Toyah Willcox, my life has not been as satisfying, I think, as Robert has found his life. I've found my career very frustrating to hold down, to pin down, to progress and evolve. And, you know, and I think 99% of performers feel this way. I think it's only the top 1% that really feel the satisfaction in what they do and they feel safe in what they do. So I'm not ready to be at home yet because I'm still proving myself and still have something to say within the work that I do. But I have come to terms with the fact that there are things I will never be able to do. I mean, obviously, I'm never going to play Juliet in Romeo and Juliet. Very unlikely I'll ever play Cleopatra in Shakespeare's play. You know, I've let go of those dreams. But also, because of the last year, I've accepted that I might never get to drive Route 66. I might never get to see the Dawn Wall in Washington, D.C. And I've always wanted to travel the route along Big Sur, where the film Plainly Misty was shot with Clint Eastwood. I love that coastline. And it's highly possible that those won't happen. And knowing that and letting go of that probably makes me feel, well, yeah, I could be at home a bit more. But giving up my career and stopping what I do, no. I'm going to have to be locked up and the key thrown away before I do that.
My wife would rather be out working.
I adore making movies and absolutely adore being in the studio writing songs. Touring is challenging because you're correct, we're physically older and the travel, the different beds every night, you know, they're challenging. But I just adore being a performer.
You know, we could do a re-envisaged Romeo and Juliet with me as your Romeo.
Oh, Antony and Cleopatra.
Yeah. I'm Anthony, I'm Romeo. We just make one or two changes in the overall view, but this is a post-mature view of theatre.
And at the same time, can we do a Christmas album of Christmas carols? Toyah and Robert's Christmas carols with you singing?
Yes.
Okay. ACG 138, you ask, but you have less fear when you're younger.
Right, this follows up to a question from last week's Agony Arts. Yes, you have less fear when you're younger because you don't know as well what can go wrong. Yeah. However, when you're older, well, this is personally, I have a far deeper faith in the creative process.
I totally agree that I was so naive when I was young. I'd have done anything. And there was no fear, but there was no knowledge either. Sosmara, you ask, so who is the guest guitarist referring to Sidney Jake in Toyah and Robert's Sunday Lunch? It's Slash. Who is it, Robert?
It's Sidney Jake.
Okay.
What you see is what you get.
Magic chord time, Joe T asks, I was hoping you'd play the first heavy riff from Lark's Tongue in Aspic Part 1, and Glowhollow 1 says, I would love to see Robert play another guitar and another amp.
Well, look, I've got the same amp, but I've changed the guitar. This is my first ever 59 Les Paul. This is the one acquired in November 1968 from the Orange Music Store, Shaftesbury Avenue, I believe. For I think it was on offer for 400. I think I gave them 380 for it, cash, and I used this on In the Court of the Crimson King in 69, all the way through Lark's Tongues to Red in 74, 2 Fripp and Eno albums, and 2 Bowie albums.
So you mean this encrusted dust down here has been in the company of David Bowie?
The dust might have been added later, dear. But anyway, look. So we know so where we have the that goes on a bit, and then we hit the main riff. Bish, bish, diddly diddly, bish, bish. And off we go.
That was stunning! What an amazing sound!
Now, for very nerdy people out there, I have something else to add to this. Since about 1971, it has not been legal to make picks, plectra, from tortoiseshell. However, I have a small number that I acquired from my guitar teacher, Don Strike, his music shop in Westbourne Arcade, still there, run by his son, and this is one that I perhaps played in 1973. Clearly, I no longer work with these, but the clarity of tone, as compared to even very, very good handmade India rubber picks from Mr. Hiroshi Iketani in Japan, do not have the same tone as you will get from tortoiseshell. Nerdiness at an end, dear.
Okay, well, that darling little tortoise, I was going to say didn't die in vain, but I'd much rather that you had your plastic ones.
Thank you, dear.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you tomorrow for Toyah and Robert's Sunday lunch. It has been touched upon, the artists have been touched upon tonight. It's going to be lots of fun. We wish you love, luck, safety, happiness, and we hope you're seeing your friends and your family outside. And we will see you very, very soon. Lots of love from Toyah.
And bollocks from Robert.